Does anyone have a favorite Elijah Wood? My favorite Elijah Wood is Flipper Elijah Wood. It's the Elijah Wood I grew up with the most. I assume most people's favorite Elijah Wood is Lord of the Rings Elijah Wood. But if you're like a Wilfred Elijah Wood, let me know, you know? Welcome back to Every Disney Movie Ever. My name is Jess and I'm watching Every Disney Movie Ever. Today I'm going to talk about The Adventures of Huck Finn. The Adventures of Huck Finn is a 1993 theatrical release. It's written and directed by Sommers. The cinematography is by Janusz Kaminski. The editing is by Bob Ducsay and the music is by Bill Conti. Sommers is best known for G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra, The Mummy, Odd Thomas, and Deep Rising. Janusz Kaminski is best known for War Horse, Schindler's List, Minority Report, and Saving Private Ryan. Bob Ducsay, that's how I'm saying it, I know it's wrong, do not come for me, is best known for Looper, Godzilla, The Last Jedi, and Knives Out. Bill Conti is best known for Your Eyes Only, Rocky, The Karate Kid Part 2, and The Right Stuff. The film is based off the book called The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain, released in 1884. We have had a movie about Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer already, but it wasn't an adaptation of the book. It was supposed to be a sequel to the book, so I didn't fully summarize the book because they weren't going to be comparable anyway, but I did loosely summarize the book. But this movie is based off The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, so shall we compare? Huck is now living with the widow. She tries to better him. Tom insists he stay with the widow to be respectable. Huck's father returns, claiming he wants Huck's newfound money. Judge Thatcher and the widow try to keep it from happening, but a new judge thinks they can reform Pap. It fails, and Pap harasses and kidnaps Huck. Huck fakes his own death and hides on an island where he meets Jim. Jim is a slave who ran from Miss Watson because he thought she was going to sell him to an abusive plantation owner. They team up, they find a raft, they loot a house with a dead man in it, and Jim refuses to let Huck see the dead man. When people grow suspicious, Jim and Huck leave the island downriver to catch a steamboat north to the Free States. They encounter a gang of robbers but get away with the robbers' loot. They miss the mouth to the Ohio River and encounter men searching for escaped slaves. Huck lies to the men and claims Jim is his father suffering from smallpox. They continue downriver, slam into a steamboat, and get separated. Huck ends up with a nice family who's feuding with another. The two families fight and kill a lot of each other. Jim arrives with a new raft and they continue downriver. Huck and Jim rescue two men who happen to be con artists. The con men pull a major con in a town, but Huck thwarts the scheme. The con men get to the raft just as Huck and Jim are pushing off. The con men sell Jim to a farmer. Yeah, these guys are not great. The farmer turns out to be Tom Sawyer's uncle and aunt who think Huck is Tom. Huck intercepts Tom and they devise a plan to free Jim. Tom's elaborate scheme results in him getting shot, and Jim gives up his freedom to nurse Tom. Tom reveals Jim is a free man because Miss Watson died and set him free in her will. Jim reveals to Huck that the dead man in the house was his father. Aunt Sally offers to adopt Huck, but he decides to head west. The end. The movie and book are very different. The bones of the book for sure is in the movie, and there are definite, like, most of the movie is the book, but they just made it their own. It kind of abruptly starts. Huck is already with the widow. He doesn't want to be. Jim is like a fortune-telling slave, apparently. And they're friends already. They know each other. They're friends. Huck's dad comes and does that. All of that stuff happens. Everything in the book happens except Tom Sawyer isn't in the book. Huck is the one to get shot. It's just different than the book, but it's not wildly different than the book. But like there are some major changes. It's hard to explain. The film stars Elijah Wood, Courtney B. Vance, Robbie Coltrane, Jason Robards, and Ron Perlman. Elijah Wood plays Huck Finn, and I covered him in the video about Deo. The link will be in the description. Courtney B. Vance plays Jim and is best known for The Hunt for Red October, Space Cowboys, Dangerous Minds, and American Crime Story. Robbie Coltrane plays the Duke, and I covered him in the video about Danny Champion of the World. Jason Robards plays the King, and I covered him in the video about Something Wicked This Way Comes. The links will be in the description. Ron Perlman plays Pap and is best known for Hellboy 1 and 2, Beauty and the Beast, and Hand of God. This was filmed in Natchez, Mississippi. It had a $6.5 million budget and made $24 million. It was considered a success. It has a 73% on Rotten Tomatoes. Ebert gave it 3 out of 4 stars and said it's good in the fact that Stephen Sommers doesn't dwell on the humane message but didn't ignore it. And I did watch it on Disney Plus. It's available on Disney Plus. I want to start off by saying the acting in this film was amazing. Ron Perlman as Pep was actually terrifying. I was genuinely scared of him and what he might do to Huck. I was very scared. He portrayed that very well. I've only really seen Ron Perlman in a few other things, most notably Pacific Rim, and he is vastly different than that character. So I was very blown away by Ron Perlman in this film. But also Elijah Wood. I mean, it's Elijah freaking Wood. We know he's a good actor, especially when he was... Not that he's not a good actor now. I loved him in Wilfred. I thought he was excellent, so I don't know what I was about to say that sounded like he was better when he was younger, because that's not true. He's always been a top-notch actor. And he's, what is he, like 12 in this movie? And he's great. It's Elijah Wood. And then Courtney B. Vance is obviously also very good. Look at his track record. The acting in this film is the standout part of it. The rest of it is fine. The music was a lot in the beginning. It needed to relax. And then it finally, settled in and became appropriate for the film, I felt like. There were some golden nuggets of lines in this film, just because you're taught something is right and everyone around you believes it's right doesn't mean it's right. That was a very good golden nugget. Obviously, it was referring to slavery. And I think later in the film, during a really intense scene, Huck says, "You're the best friend I've ever had," and Jim says, "You're the only friend I've ever had," and that was like, woo! Woo! That was good. But otherwise, the movie was a little up and down. The apology scene where, Huck apologizes to Jim was very powerful. I thought Elijah Wood did an incredible job in that scene, because he's like, "I'm not going to apologize to a slave. If you think I'm going to do that, you're wrong." And then immediately he breaks down and is like, "I'm sorry, Jim. I'm sorry. It was awful of me." And, it was very powerful. I was like, oh, Elijah Wood out here wrecking it as a child. I wonder if Courtney B. Vance was like, "Dang, this kid can act." Otherwise, it was good. There was a part that made me laugh. It was a sheriff shot some guy, turned around and said, "Welcome to America," and I thought that was so funny, because wow, still applies. And then just I don't know, the movie was fine. They did push the theme that slavery is wrong. It is bad. No thanks. Racism is terrible. It pushed that message. So I'm totally fine with the movie. I didn't, it's good. And I liked that Huck was the one that got shot. It made it much more high stakes. The scene where Huck is bleeding out and Jim is about to be hung was so intense. I was I was very nervous in that scene, and then Mary Jane saved them, and that was great. And I liked that they took Tom out of it, because it's not about Tom Sawyer, it is about Huck. And I liked that. Well, about Huck and Jim. And I liked that. But otherwise, it's fine. It was a good movie, but it wasn't amazing. It's fine. That's fine. That's pretty much everything I have for The Adventures of Huck Finn. There are 2 parent deaths, and I wanted to say one last thing, that the film is very episodic, but I think that's how the book is, so that makes sense. My final rating is 7 rafts out of 10. Our total movie count is... Our parent death toll is... My count is still the same. If you want to keep up with the movie I'm watching when, follow me on Instagram or Twitter. You'll find out what movie I'm watching when. I put up videos every Monday and Friday, and sometimes Wednesday. Join my Patreon, because it's awesome. Until next time, comment, like, subscribe, and how you are, so you do it. And don't be any white dude that approves of slavery about it. Time to go eat lunch.